Chris, I need your help. I am leading a business. We're not hitting our numbers, and I need to work, and I'm drinking too much, and I'm not getting any time with the kids, and my wife is unhappy with me all the time, and I just don't know what to do next.
Well, Simon, what an introduction. Love it. So what that was, as far as I'm concerned, is probably an ideal person for me to work with and help. So yeah, not an uncommon situation for people to find themselves in. So if I just unpick and dissect some of the bits you've spoken about there, and it's part of my own backstory. We'll probably get into it as we're talking anyway, but we are in a position that we're talking about people with financial, billing, business developing, budget and target responsibility. Business owner could even be just senior sales executive. It could be I've come from recruitment. It could be in recruitment everyone's the majority of the industry, it's a sales industry, is targeted to numbers, and it's very common for poor choices, bad habits to creep in that sort of pressurized and stressful environment. And it's society, we've sort of groomed ourselves to be this way. And you touched on drinking there. It's an area that I talk about a lot on LinkedIn, big part of my background. And it's often the crutch that people go to unwind, de-stress. I've had a busy day, I'm going to have a drink. I've had a successful day, I've hit my numbers, I'm going to have a drink. And unfortunately, if we talk about the former, if we're using alcohol to numb pain, suppress negativity, to mask over feelings, negative emotions and feelings, unfortunately, that very often and pretty much every time is a little bit of a slippery slope in terms of performance and productivity and health and mental health and mindset and all those good things. So the first thing I would always say, if this was, of course, we're recording a podcast, so it's slightly different, Simon. But if you were approaching me at this point to say, I'm interested in working with you, Chris, because I believe what I've seen from you, you can help me. And all of the above that you've mentioned are areas that I love to explore and dig into. Not every client needs to come to me in a pickle. And in a state where actually they've got themselves in a little bit of a dark hole. However, I guess the ideal starting point and where we can really accelerate some change and growth is that point. And the first thing I'd always say to any man that decides to say those words out loud, first of all to themselves, maybe second of all to a partner, and maybe third of all to somebody like me, a professional that can work with them to support and improve those aspects of their life, is that's off. That's the brave move. That's the move that removes the ego, shifts it out the way. We've all got some ego, haven't we? And it's helpful in a business leading, business developing, sales environment. You need something that maybe you badge it up, confidence rather than ego. I don't know, but there is absolutely nothing wrong with recognizing that the amount of effort and hard work that you're putting into your business and your role and the pressure that you're absorbing, quite often it's not uncommon that people just choose the wrong things to deal with it. And all of a sudden, after 12, 18 months, 2 years of those habits being compounded, they find themselves in a little bit of not an ideal situation, should we say. So like I say, the first thing I would always say is, hats off for flagging it, hats off for putting the hand up to say, I'm ready to change. And I think it's the single most important, boldest, bravest, decision that somebody's going to take to say, I think I'm gonna engage with somebody here to work my way through it, and of course invest, in that sort of support. So that's how I'd respond to that, Simon. And of course, from this point, we'd start to unpick and unpack exactly what was going on.
And what would you say is going on with a lot of sort of modern successful guys? They're in high profile roles, within the organization, and whether they're, leading a business or they're leading the charge around revenue. That's high stress at work and high pressure at work. And then, I've been a salesperson for the last 20 years or so I know this world incredibly well. And at times, absolutely, you can get completely caught up in that business, but also the the counter to that is that when you go home as well, because you're not as present, you can't always give the same attention as you'd like to be able to give at home. You kind of in this situation where you're trying to do the work thing and the family thing, and everything kind of starts to slowly erode. And it's like, I've worked my entire life and career to get to this point, and I'm not being successful at any of it anymore. And when you're at the beginning of your career, you can just grind your way through it because you also don't have the home responsibilities. And I can see how it starts to all proliferate, and suddenly it's like death by a thousand cuts. And, then what's your answer? My best friend's having a glass of wine. And then that starts to compound as well. So I can see how men at the top of their careers can get themselves into a right pickle.
A right pickle is a great way to put it. I think that, look, there's a few things in there, isn't there? So first and foremost, in a lot of industries, so I mean, my background is recruitment. You obviously you're a sales role yourself. Any industry, just insurance, telecommunications, office furniture, finance, banking, recruitment, construction, whatever. When you start working your way up to the sort of the top of those trees in those industries, a lot of business will be done in a social setting. A lot of business will be done over food and wine. A lot of business will be done on the golf course, followed by food and wine and beer or whatever it's going to be. There's a culturally and as a society, and particularly in the UK, and it's not just the UK because I know the US and Australia have got similar issues, and Europe, but the fact of the matter is that we are groomed to actually, first of all, entertain, whether that's clients, whether that's teams, whether that's peers, whether that's staff. We're groomed to entertain and have fun. Alcohol's weaved into it somewhere. So it's normal. It's just normal, isn't it? And the marketeers, I say this a lot when I have this conversation around alcohol specifically. The marketing people over the years, a bit like what the marketing people did with cigarettes. Marlboros were the thing to smoke because the cowboy was super cool. Now that isn't the case anymore, is it? So, same application to alcohol. I remember seeing a Ukrainian vodka advertised recently, and the impression I got from the advert was if I drank it, I was just the most stoic, masculine man that you could ever imagine, if I drank this vodka. So, and again, it's just the way that everything's positioned in marketing. So coming back to what you say, it's normal. It's just normal that we do things, and social activity and business revolves around alcohol. We celebrate sales and hitting targets by cracking open a bottle of champagne and toasting those targets with alcohol. Like I say, we entertain staff and we entertain ourselves, and also when we get home, it may be a case that with friends and in the social circles and with the wife, who might enjoy a bit of wine when you get home. All of a sudden, you find yourself in this place where this alcohol is addictive fact. Not everyone is unfortunate to suffer from something that starts to dig its claws in. Some people can genuinely take it or leave it, and I couldn't be any happier for them. My background, I wasn't one of those people. I am now, which is great, so I don't need to worry about that anymore, but I didn't used to be. And I think what happens is, so it's normalised in the first instance. So we've already normalised this situation that one of my go-to habits to cope with this amount of stress that I've got, and I'll come on to, you painted a picture of the person that I generally work with, that sort of senior family man with responsibilities. But I think what also happens is we've got it normalised. We've got something that then becomes quite addictive. We then get into a sort of a Groundhog Day routine when it comes to your daily cycle, which is I'm getting up early. So let me paint a sort of a worse case scenario of someone that I might see initially. So we're getting up early. We might even be in the 5 a.m. club, but that's actually not to train or not to do anything healthy for myself. That's to get up and crack on and get into work. That's for me to get the tube into London. That's for me to get in the car and drive 2 hours down the road to the business meeting, whatever it's going to be. I work hard, I graft hard, I have lots of conversations, I'm doing a lot of business, I've got a lot of stress, a lot of decisions to make. It's a long day. I then get home, I've literally just straight to the door, bag down, hello to the kids before they disappear to bed, wolf some food down me, sit down and chat to the missus. It may be a case then that you just sit down and have a glass of wine, watch a bit of TV, whatever it's going to be. Before you know it, it's time for bed, back up again and off you go. And asleep in the middle of that, by the way, if you are drinking alcohol, in that sense, even if it's just a glass of 2 or wine a night, it'll disrupt your sleep and the quality won't be great. So then you're waking up in the morning for your 5 a.m. club to get up early, to go to work, to do it all again. And we're in this cycle. And I think one of the big challenges is we are spinning plates. When I'm doing work with clients, it's really difficult to get every single one of them plates in your life and business all spinning at the same speed at exactly the same time. I think it's unrealistic to have that situation. It's almost a case of, and this is how I try and work with my clients, is you're picking off what's the priority. So it might be a case, let's just talk about sales. I've got a humongous deal that I'm working on, tenders due, pitches due, with real pressurised end of a multiple £1 million business deal that you're working on. I hope that your partner would expect that's going to take a little bit of time, and it needs focus, it needs your effort, it probably needs some hours putting into it, because getting that over the line has an impact on commissions and earnings and business and revenue and all the good stuff. It comes back round again that can complement lifestyle and family and all that sort of stuff. So lovely. Right. I guess that's what a lot of people in a revenue generating role do it for, because they want a few nice things, and afford to do nice stuff. But the problem is that if we're not careful, we can concentrate for too long on continually spinning that deal making, business making, revenue creating plate. And of course, over here now, the kids' plate's virtually off. You saw the post yesterday, because I know you mentioned it. The missus is ready virtually. That plate's virtually going to drop off and just smash on the floor and it's done. Your own health, well-being, fitness, training, exercise, fallen by the wayside, because slowly but surely you've got sucked into that business frame of mind, and all of a sudden you're in this situation, let's call it Groundhog Day, where you'll look back over a number of weeks or months and think, all I've really done is focus entirely on business. Like you said at the very start, I'm starting to get negativity at home and the missus is not happy with me. I'm drinking a bit too much. I'm being a bit short with the kids. I'm putting some weight on. Trousers are feeling tight. I'm not feeling great. Dot rings under my eyes. And all of a sudden, you look back into the last however many months of how I've been treating myself, and maybe not having a focus on every element of my life, and it's just been business, has put me in a position that actually I ain't feeling too great anymore. What is all this all about? So a slightly long-winded response, but you threw a lot at me then, Simon. So I wanted to make sure I covered and I touched on some of those points that you'd said. So, and look, it's hard, because if you think about the sort of person we're talking about, so you're in a sales role. Me, that's my background. I run a business now that, I'm in the same sort of position. Particularly when you're in a sort of a larger sort of corporate environment, where there might be additional pressures to, you might be reporting to a board, you've got to report figures to a board, there's expected growth, there could be investors that are expecting a return, whatever it's going to be, there's a lot of other things to consider. It can be really easy to just be slowly but surely, you're sucked more and more into work. And a trait of if I look at salespeople that I've worked with, there's a trait, and I see it a lot with a lot of people that I've engaged with on a coaching basis, people I know now. Men sometimes can, can be a little bit people pleasing. In the sales environment, we want to please people, don't we? We want the validation of securing the deal. We want you to choose me and my product, my business, my service, whatever it is you're selling, and a lot of that for a middle-aged man can stem from relationship with dad when they were younger. I've done a lot of work with a lot of different clients, and this is quite a common theme, quite a common thread. So when you've got those sort of tendencies, then we're in a situation where it becomes increasingly difficult to say no, or at least set some sort of healthy boundaries in business, because the more you give, and this is just really typical in a business environment, the more you give, whether it's hours, effort, time, the early starts, the late finish, the answering the emails late at night, the more that tends to be taken from from those around you in business, and all of a sudden you can find yourself in a position that you've just morphed into a position where it's almost expected that Simon does 12-hour days. He's always on his laptop at night. He's always on the road early in the morning, and then you're in a, like I say, Groundhog Day. It's a bit of a vicious cycle, and you can find yourself in a little bit of a pickle, as you put it. I quite liked that word. I thought it was a good way to put it. So.
Yeah, so much there to unpack. So, Chris, thank you so much for that answer. I'm gonna, if it's all right, I think there's one piece there that really resonated. And you're talking about people pleasing, but also that stemming from relationship with dad. Can we talk about that for a second? Because that resonated with me as well. Because I've always considered myself as someone who is a bit of a people pleaser, and I often think back. I was like, it's probably connected to dad in some way, but I've never really understood it. But maybe you could help me understand it. That'd be great.
Right, let's do it. So no one, just to be clear, there is no one size fits all. It's really important. Any work that I do with any individual is always geared around them. So, but I see a theme when I work with clients, men, middle-aged, and I am in this category. I am in this place as well. So, relationship with dad. So let's just say we're born in the, let's just say, 70s, mid late 70s, maybe early 80s, aren't we? Thereabouts. But let's just say around that period. I think at that point in time there was still quite a traditional home life. Generally, and I say generally, dad was out working hard, the breadwinner. Mum could work. My mum worked part-time and then stopped for a period of time, so I was always at home when we got home, from school and things like that, but dad was never there. He worked 7 days a week, long days. When he got home, he was tired, he was stressed, generally just told me off for everything I did wrong, never said well done, no praise, no nothing. And that is, he was a tradesman, so he was a joiner actually, so that was my own experience. But when I've talked to other clients, that there seems to be a common theme. I think that generation of dad, and I'm generalizing, and I'm taking trends. That's not to say someone listening to this has not got just the best relationship with their dad ever, but it's a common theme that I've seen, is that then you're not getting that praise, you're not getting that validation, you're not getting that well done, you're not getting that pat on your back, you're not getting that I'm proud of your son, you're not getting that from your dad. And ultimately what that then creates, because between the ages of sort of 4 to about 8, 9, maybe 10, as a child, you are creating the future you. So whatever happens during that period, you will find you'll see the outcome of that as you go through life. Values are created, beliefs are created, thought patterns are created, right and wrongs in your head initially is created, so, and what that then translates into further down the line is as a man in later life, you are seeking, you want that validation, you're seeking that well done, you're seeking that thank you, you're seeking that, congratulations, whatever, fill the space with whatever word you'd like to, on the back of the nurture, the relationship that you were nurtured through and as a young age. So, and that then can turn into these sorts of people pleasing tendencies, dependent on the relationship with dad when you were younger. If there's a little bit of trauma in there, maybe, I'm not saying you, by the way, but, if somebody was maybe knocked around a little bit, and I use that in its really loosest terms, as in, smacked, because in those days that was still quite normal to do. It's sort of stopped as we've transitioned from that generation to this one. Maybe sometimes that smacking got a bit harder as you got older. That can create a little bit more anxiety under the surface as well, bit of trauma, which can then lead to a man effectively becoming a little bit more of a people pleaser, because they might not necessarily want to have that antagonistic, situation. They're seeking validation. They want to be liked. They want to, and all the things I mentioned before about being told, well done, thank you, congratulations, and what have you. And and it's not untypical of of people in this generation, middle-aged men. It's not untypical. As much as that person might not want to admit it, they may be putting a mask on and giving it some bravado, and say as it is, and take like me or lump me, take me or leave me. I'm black and white, and all the other sort of things that people say. Deep down, often it can be something that needs a little bit of work. And I think about the experience I've had so I've done work on this myself with a coach that I use, and I've also done similar work with clients as well. And a big chunk is just often people don't recognise, they don't understand that actually what happened as a kid is having an impact on how you're feeling, thinking and behaving right now at the age of 40 odd. It doesn't seem hard to compute that 35, 40 years on, what happened then is impacting me now, but it does. So really it's about then, first and foremost, the work that I would do is unpicking it, unravelling it, giving someone an opportunity as a grown man who may have never said it to anyone else before, unless they've done a bit of therapy or maybe a bit of counselling if they've needed to. They won't have opened up and said this sort of thing before. It's just getting it out on the table, saying it out loud, saying it in the open in a safe environment. And from there, starting to then think how that situation, how those experiences can then have created some of the thought processes that are happening right now. And when I work with clients around this type of thing, I'm happy to go backwards and I'm happy to understand some root causes, but I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counsellor. So the work that I do is very much about lifting someone from a position where we're actually looking at, we're forward thinking, we're concentrating on growth, development, change, progress, improvement, peak performance, optimal performance, whatever word works for you. Ultimately, it's about looking forward and going forward. But it's handy to understand some of those root causes. So as we're navigating through the going forward, if we hit a little roadblock and a bump and a challenge or an issue that we need to unpack, if we can relate it back to that situation, it gets a little bit easier for the individual to start addressing it, identifying it and addressing it and correcting their behaviours in a way that's fit for purpose for where they are right now in their life. So does that help?
Yeah. It was like you're talking directly to me about my past, actually. Yeah, because I think you're right. It's exactly a generational thing. Because I know certainly in my situation, my dad worked incredibly hard, with his hands all day, then come home, then would work in the garage to earn extra money as well. So there was just constant work, like very long 12-hour days, turning into 15-hour days because he would then work in the evening and then rinse and repeat. And probably his only opportunity really to be himself was with his rugby mates, Saturday or whatever. He's gone off and have a couple of beers with them. So it was, a really tough time for fathers back then. There's no question. Before the internet, all that kind of stuff. So it's a completely different world back in this like 70s, 80s. But you're absolutely right as well. There was, what I would say is there was the level of empathy back then or understanding of raising a child. Interesting as we're having this conversation, my child, Logan, is my oldest, he's 4. And I'm ultra aware of the empathy, the love, the cuddles, that I'm proud of you, the cuddles, and all of that kind of stuff, because it definitely didn't happen for me when I was younger. It didn't mean he didn't love me. It was just a different thing. But he absolutely, and what I hadn't really connected it so much in some respects is that I've kind of been able to understand that as lent into the validation. So seeking validation, and the seeking validation could be around earning the money, getting the girl, getting the car, going on that journey of acquiring things. But I'd never associated it to people pleasing before. Where do you think the connection is there? I suppose is that also validation as well? Being liked, being accepted.
What? Yeah, and you've opened up a right kind of worms there, because this is, let's get right into this, because what I touched on when I was talking a little while ago. We talked about, delivering your numbers, winning your deals, getting the tenders over the line, big pitches, earning the money, taking it home, getting nice things, buying nice experiences, saving some, getting the car, the house, the clothes, whatever. And it's really interesting because what you've just listed there, majority of what you listed, the car, the girl, fair enough. That's not a material thing. We'll be talking about the girl. Well, it can be actually dependent on what you look for in a girl, but let's keep that one to one side. But like you say, you go and buy the nicer car, don't you? You go and get the bigger house. You go and get the nicer watch. You go and step up the to the tailored suits. And the shoes. Everything. And ultimately, what are we actually doing that for? So I'm pro money. Okay, I'm pro. When I say pro money, I believe that a level of income can create nice experiences, give you flexibility and buy nice things, which is lovely, which is great. But equally, I am also of an opinion that I don't believe that for the majority of people, while some people say, I'm so money motivated, why is that? Because it's not actually about the money. It's really then starting to peel back the layers of, and this is the type of work I do with clients and trying to understand their actual values and what they actually truly stand for, is that when you peel the layers back, it's not the money and the material stuff that actually makes you happy. It's not that gives you true fulfillment and true happiness, true satisfaction. Again, choose your own word and put it in there. And when you talk about validation, we talked about validation and people pleasing. Really, what we're doing is we're trying to, when you buy that nice car or it's just you're almost buying something for somebody else. A lot of people are buying it for show. I did it. I've done it loads of times. Last car I had in the last recruitment business was a beautiful car. I didn't enjoy driving it actually. Funnily enough, lovely car. I had one of the Porsche Taycan. Cross Turismo. I had one of them. Amazing, honestly, like a sexy car, like drove dead nice, really, really nice. But when I had it, I remember driving. I didn't make me happy. It was a beautiful car, but I almost felt weirdly. I felt slightly ashamed to drive it. It was bizarre. I know when it got delivered, there was a few staff in the business where I was that were making redundancy. It didn't feel right that we were making those decisions right at the top table. And then the car was delayed because of COVID and delays in manufacturing. But then I had this car, and I was like, do you know what? When he ordered it, it felt right, but at the moment, it just doesn't feel right to be receiving and driving this car. So the actual experience of having that car I'd say, was a little bit more negative than positive. And the point I'm trying to say is that, you often, when you're going for the sports car, and you're going for the designer suit, you go down the route of getting yourself it's a grand for a 3-piece suit and upwards type thing, just to wear day to day. You got to start questioning why that is, and is it because you're just doing it to show off, just for show for other people? Because if that is the case, you got to think to yourself, well, why is that? Why is that? And that comes back to the whole people pleasing and validation thing. So like that lovely car that I had, have it or not have it, didn't really change my state of happiness and how happy and how satisfied I was. Not one bit. And it's quite an expensive thing, isn't it? That quite an expensive material thing. So, but ultimately, what it boils down to, and this is where, we were talking about the analogy with all the plates of life and business all being spun and working out what your priorities are and what you need to focus on first. And that's like a sort of a logical, practical approach to life, and just making sure that you're considering the plates that are starting to slow down. It's making sure that you're holding the mirror up and you can see what's going on. But I think there's deeper work that needs to be done. And I'll do this with clients around values, so let's peel these back and let's really understand what you stand for. Because once you then start to understand what your actual true values are, and then you start to make decisions and choices that are aligned to those values and what you stand for and who you are, then you become and you be, you act, you do, and you are being the way that you naturally should be. And then what happens is a bit like maybe what happened with the Porsche, is that when you make a decision or you do something that doesn't necessarily align completely with those values and what you truly stand for, I don't like some of these words, but I'll use them like your purpose and your reason why and all that sort of stuff. I think when you understand what it is you stand for, it is, what is it you're ultimately aiming to achieve and be, what on your deathbed, what do you want to be able to look at your family and tell them you've achieved? Then you can start to make some more structured, decisions that if you can get everything aligned to all of those things that I've just quickly done a whistle stop tour on, you'll start to feel that you'll feel a greater sense of happiness and you'll feel a greater sense of fulfillment, and that'll be different for everybody when you do that piece of work, naturally, because everyone's different and I treat everyone differently in my work. But yeah, and as part of that, you're then really starting to work out, well, right, okay, so who am I actually trying to please now? When we talk about people pleasing, it's everyone else apart from yourself. Well, actually, what we need to do is let's start pleasing ourselves in the first instance, because the more happy we are, the greater impact other people are going to have, So, but yeah, so a lot in there. I'm sorry. So, I shouldn't apologise, but a lot in there. But there's a lot to consider, when you're looking at this sort of stuff, and there isn't a one size fits all. It's not the same solution and the same root cause for everybody. But as we started to talk, crikey, better go now, about the people pleasing and validation thing, it needs a bit of work, because what it can often do is it can create some pretty shit, pardon my French, behaviours, and those behaviours aren't actually behaviours that are going to really help you. So yeah, hope that helps.
It does. It really does. It really does. You mentioned some important points there, and one of the starting points it sounded like was about values. Why is that important?
I think it's being clear on what you stand for, what is important to you. And often people know their values. If you sat down with a good mate, you probably know 2 or 3 of their values straight away, because you know them and you know they behave. You can see when they're happy. What are they doing when they're at the happiest? What sort of nature have they got? How do they treat you? You'll start to get a feel for it. But the reason that it's helpful to start understanding your own values is it helps you to then, and it becomes quite selfish, this does, and this is why the people-pleasing thing has to be challenged, because we need to really be quite selfish in terms of what's in it for me. So these are my values, and this is what I stand for. This is how I want to live my life. This is all going to help me in the direction of travel that I'm heading. And therefore, what happens is when you get a decision to make or an option, or there's a fork in the road, there's a business, there's an opportunity, there's a meeting, there's with an individual, and there might be an opportunity, I don't know, whatever, a career opportunity or a business opportunity or whatever. And actually, you'll start to make decisions that align to those values. And what that then starts to do is make sure that you are making decisions that are right for you in the first instance, not for anyone else in the first instance, because this isn't people pleasing stuff. This is me pleasing stuff. This is what I stand for. And creating what I like to do, and there's 2 clients I've got at the moment. We've been working together for 12 months, and both of them I've sort of seen the very different people. But we've just got to a point where what I see now, one came to me a little bit overwhelmed, a bit stressed, lots of stuff going on, which we had to unpack and unpick and work through. We've done really well. The other, a little bit more of an ego, I guess, really. Just striving for constant improvement. Both of them, after 12 months of working together now, are both in this... I see confidence as not the loudest voice in the room. Often confidence can be one of the quietest people in the room. But they're there, they're watching, they're listening, they know what's going on. They're internally, they've got strong self-esteem. There's an inner confidence. They're self-assured. They don't need to be talking the loudest and the most information and the most intelligent stuff to be confident in themselves. And And I've seen that with a couple of clients recently. We've sort of got ourselves this rock solid base that they are operating from now, which is stable, regulating emotions a lot better, not being shitty with the partner. Alcohol's nice and tidy. Both of them, to be fair, not really. Alcohol wasn't a massive thing for us to work on. We've just got this base now to really look at moving forward and evolving and growing and driving their life and business forward, but from a place that hasn't got ego or stress or overwhelm intermingled in everything, that's actually almost putting weeds around their feet, if that makes sense. So yes, I know I've got off on a slight tangent there, but I'll probably do that anyway. But I think that's the important thing, is that what we're trying to build here is someone that is, when I say I'm trying to build, I'm not trying to force anyone, but the outcome I want clients to have in working with me, and going back to the person that introduced themselves at the start of this podcast with all those issues going on, is I'm looking to unravel on the short term some frustrations and get the low hanging fruit. Alcohol is always low hanging fruit because the change from dealing with that is massive. Deal with frustrations, deal with some stress. Let's tidy things up at home. Come on, let's work out what we could be doing here to just get the partner in a better place. Because I'm a massive, massive believer. If you've got a healthy home life, then business will get a benefit from that. Massive. I completely believe you're going home every night to arguments and and fights and ignoring each other and all that stuff. That's never going to help you in business at all. So that's important. Just getting to a point that you've got this. So we're not trying to turn people into like me. It's all about me. But what we're trying to say is let's not worry about people. Let's not worry about people pleasing everybody else. Let's not worry about validating ourselves to everybody else. Let's do our own work first. Let's work on us. Let's get lifestyle in check. Let's now start operating from a less emotional place. Let's be engaging with the human part of our brain and making rational, thoughtful, logical decisions and taking logical actions that are aligned to how we want, what we stand for, what's important to us, and the direction of travel we're aiming in. Make sure we're keeping an eye on the plate as we're spinning them all, because we know some are going to slow down, and we've got to make sure we don't lose focus on them. And then that's at that point where, like I say, the weeds can come from around the ankles. We've got a direction of travel for now, because things will change as they always do. And that's really, that's then where we start to really start cranking on and making some considerable progress. But it's about starting with yourself, and starting with yourself, You sort of also ask the question. I used to live in a lovely part of the village and countryside, and nice car on the drive. I mean, the missus worked from home actually, so just share one now. Don't need to, which is great. So that's good, isn't it? Because it saves money. But yeah, there's I like nice things. I like nice clothes. I like nice trainers. I like nice stuff. But it's not the be all end all. What I find is more important now is good quality time with the kids. Good quality time. Not just rushed, snapping at them time. Making sure I'm good as gold with my missus, helping around the house and contributing at home and stuff like that, being a good person, making them laugh, being happy myself, so there's a lot of inner work you've got to do on yourself. Obviously, we've got the people pleasing thing that sort of I've woven into this a little bit now. But then ultimately, by doing that inner work and really changing the whole approach and mindset to life and business, by doing it for the right reasons, the values and everything else, then the future's bright. Then I think it's at that point when you've done that type of work, you can really start to. And sometimes that can be right after doing all that work. I'm doing the wrong job. I'm living in the wrong country. I'm with the wrong wife. I've made a mistake. This isn't right for me anymore. I'm going to sell the car. I'm going to buy a car. I want a bigger. I don't know. Whatever it's going to be, it'll be different by every individual. But that's why. So I know you asked about values at the start, and I've gone right around the. Talk quite a bit there, but it all intertwines, and that's why I think that's why the values bit's really important, is knowing you. Because once you know you, then then that's where you can make some real progress.
Yeah, because I think understanding values, it. A lot of people, if I ask them what their values are, I'm confident they would probably go, "It's not something I've ever thought about." Not consciously, not written them down. If you said like, "Well, what are your three values?"
Yes.
So I know it's something that I worked on quite quickly with my coach, and I think also the thing around values is that it can change. It doesn't have to be the same values. Like what I valued 10 years ago, I say again, what I valued 15 years ago as a single man before I'd met my wife was very different compared to what I value today as I stand here at 44 with a family, with my wife, and, a completely different life to what I had 15 years ago. So I think it can be something that can certainly change over your lifetime, but it's important to certainly know what you stand for. And I don't actually feel like it's the sort of work you can necessarily do alone. I do think it's better with a coach, because also you might put up a value which it's not the right value, and go, well, so how you should have some back and forth around what those values are. I'm just actually thinking about mine recently and just thinking, well, I need to probably do some work on that. And say, actually, are these the right ones? Do they need to change in some respects? But you also then started talking about something really critical, actually, I think, to this entire conversation, which is the inner work. Because I can tell in my business career, business leaders who have done the work and business leaders who haven't done the work. So I'm talking about guys older than me in their 50s, senior business leaders, and how they are in situations, high stress, high pressure, all those sorts of things. And I can tell really easily, because I've been through the journey. I've done this work. I wrote a book about it. But now it's so simple and easy for me just to be in the rooms of people, and it's so obvious to go, you really need to go to therapy, or you need to do some work on yourself. And I can't say that to a senior business leader, but I can see how they're acting and responding in situations which they don't need to be responding or action in that way. And also these people have massive impact because they have so many people that report to them and all those sort of things. But I'm going to come back to the original point here, is that the inner work needs to be done, but some people just aren't even aware it needs to be done. How do we reach those people? Because it's not just the impact for them as an individual, but it's the impact. These people are all senior business leaders, and they impact so many people. And also then they have their home life as well. I feel like
Yeah.
awareness is the first step.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting point, because this is the reason why I personally target, C-suite business owners, senior execs, purely because they are going to they're in control, they supervise, they manage, whatever words you want to use. They're responsible for a lot of people, and the ripple effect that can be created from someone leading a group of people that has done work on themselves, and therefore leads in a much more effective way. It has a ripple effect and impact on those people as well, which I think is amazing. But this is the challenge with this whole. So, my service, the role that I do, it's not something I can just go and cold call around some business leaders to see if you fancy having a coach. It just sort of doesn't work like that, because somebody has to be in a position to, like you say, have done some self-reflection, maybe had the feedback from the missus or a pal or a good friend, team member, peer, whatever, to say, look, there's a few cracks here and here. Maybe you might want to have a look at something. I had a call, a discovery session, not progressed yet. And this guy was a CEO in a business, and bizarrely, he sort of, this guy's probably drinking a little bit too regular. Just needs to get that in check. And there's loads of other stuff beyond that. There's loads of other stuff, fitness and everything. Just there's a bit of an overhaul needed. And bizarrely, and I don't know how this chap must have come across me online, but he another business owner had sent him my website address and said, look, why don't you have a look at this guy? And ironically, this was after Christmas. Before Christmas, this potential client's wife sent him my LinkedIn profile. Why don't you have a look at this guy? And from two independent places, I'd been put on his radar. And then he created the conversation to say, look, he did message me, before Christmas. Nothing, just went quiet again. And then messaged me again in the new year, and we met. I met him face to face, as we lived too far away. And I I think it took those people who we respect. So one, a business owner who he knows, and the other his partner, who's a bit concerned about a couple of bits. And yeah, that sort of got him in a position to sort of reflect and think, okay, yeah, need to look at this. And those conversations are ongoing. But not everyone's probably fortunate enough to maybe have a network around them that's going to be brave enough maybe to say that. You could have somebody really senior that is quite difficult to approach on these sort of things, If you give them any form of feedback or criticism, shall we say, they might not respond to that feedback particularly well. So, every person, every situation is going to be slightly different. But I think what I hope and what I see, when you look at the US, the coaching culture in the US is massive. And I'm seeing the UK, in my opinion, I'm seeing the UK starting to follow suit where, actually I use a coach. I've used one for like 7.5 years, whatever it is now. And I think that people are now starting to realise that relationship, someone being able to hold the mirror up, push back, challenge, support, guide, mentor if you need to, and be able to help someone who wants to be better. I just see that trend is going to continue to grow, in the UK as well. So it's just, the problem is, you can't just push a coach onto someone because it's quite a personal relationship as well, isn't it? It's quite a, with the clients I work with, it's a tight relationship. They share everything, in a confidential, non-disclosure agreement place, So for some people, unless they are going to acknowledge to themselves or something horrendous goes wrong, like the post yesterday, they end up, the solicitor's letter gets dropped on the table and the wife says, I want to leave you. Me and the kids are going, And I said it in tongue in cheek on the social media post yesterday. I was saying, well, here's why men invest in working with me, because it's cheaper than divorce, and that's fact. That, unfortunately, is a position that someone could find themselves in before they then take the decision to think, okay, maybe I need to do a little bit of work here, because a lot of men just don't, maybe ignorant to the fact, arrogant to the fact of acknowledging that maybe they need to change, and maybe they're the ones that need to, do a bit of work on themselves, as you said. So,
and that's the thing, because it's just, if you've got a senior business leader, they've got people that report to them, and then they've also got their families. So I often think about it in the context. It's just, who are you impacting? And I use the word impacting because it could be, you could be impacting in a real positive way, amazing impact this person's making, lives they're changing, improving the revenue, but also improving lives at the same time, the people in the company and the well-being and all that kind of stuff within the business, and everyone's really motivated. Or equally, it could be if I think about the below the line piece, it's the impact you're having is, it's significant for your direct reports. They're struggling, and then their reports are struggling, and their families are struggling. So it's, it's that awareness piece for some senior business leaders where, and also if they're senior, they've also been through different types of leadership. So if I think about 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago, the command and control leadership style, which is I say, you do, that was very prevalent. Let's be fair. It was very, very prevalent. And today's leadership style, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, a lot of people respond better to more authentic, more open, more conversation, more collaboration, more teamwork type approaches. So that whole kind of the leadership style from years ago probably isn't as effective anymore if you want to lead a team long term.
No, definitely. And I just want to, where you started there, Simon, I think this is quite important, is that, the work that I do is about, I span life and business. So, I want to make sure that we've got the individual done the work on themselves that has an impact on everything around them in life and everything around the business. So I've got a couple of examples where I had a client's wife email me a few months back now, and she said thanks, because she'd actually seen the impact of, because he told her everything. We'd go home and tell her everything that we'd been doing, and she she sent me an email to thank me and just said, look, I'm seeing the benefits of the work that Nick's doing with you at home. So, wow, what a ripple effect that is, Lovely woman as well, and then another client, well, there's no details here, but there was a situation where his mum wanted to spend a bit more time with some family members, and through the work that he did, that happened. His wife, actually, she started to, because she's really into her fitness, but maybe didn't understand the impact that alcohol was having on fitness and weight and things like that. And she went down the route of reassessing a relationship with alcohol. And these were ripple effects inside life. And I think the ripple effects inside business are massive, and I guess the way I angle it is it's more about, we're just going to grow your bottom line. That's sort of like the type of approach. But ultimately, you grow the bottom line by impacting, being a better leader, leading from the front, dealing with your people better, retaining more people, attracting better people. Everyone's just performing better. But I think the lifestyle side of things, I think, like I said earlier in the conversation, I think if you get to a point that you've got a stable, happy home life, you're not going to have your bed roses all the time. You'll have your little niggles and little arguments and stuff. But I think if you can have stability in your life, in a home environment, and fun and happiness and everything else that comes with a fulfilling existence, that's the individual that then goes to town on a business and can just have such a significant impact, not just on their individual performance and the money, the deals that they work on directly, but like you've said, then it's on their leadership style. I remember, if I go back to when I was just drinking and partying regularly, it's not quite easily, you'd get quite irate easily because the stress levels in the body are higher because you've got alcohol in your system or your body's trying to process it. So, but by removing that and doing work on yourself, becoming more just comfortable in my own skin, I'm not trying to please other people. I'm happy. I know my values. I know what I stand for. Just enables you to be. You use the word authentic. You then can be and behave and just be a more authentic you, because you've done all the work to get rid of the stuff that's not really very conducive to helping you to be the normal you. And you talked about leadership styles, massive, certainly the generation, I forget the flipping letters of generation, which one's which anymore, but the generation that's now coming through education and into the workplace, say even in football, actually, I heard this in football. The old school manager, the hairdryer treatment in the dressing room that was once upon a time, you can't do it anymore. Some club, there was a club, I can't remember which club, a club had appointed their academy manager to manage their first team on the basis of the first team was made up of a lot of younger players and a lot of them had spun out the academy. And it's because the leadership style that they were looking for, the hairdryer treatment isn't going to work for them. It's just not going to get them up and running. It's not going to get them to perform. So all of a sudden, and the business landscape's the same, because the same sort of people are going to go into a work environment, is that, it just puts you in a position, if you've done the work on you, it puts you in a position that you can be more adaptable, more productive, and just bring more value to the workplace in a leadership role as well. There's just no doubt about it, is there?
Well, football's always an interesting analogy, because we can talk about Ferguson at Man United and we can talk about maybe even Mourinho and that type of leadership style. And then we think about who are the managers that are known and loved today. Tactically, they might be all very similar, by the way, but it's also just the way of communication. If we think about, Klopp, or we talk about Pep, we talk about those people today in a completely different reign of light, and they might get frustrated or this or that, we can see all of that stuff, but they, tactically, they might be communicating a similar message. But I think, seeing the way that Klopp has managed Liverpool, that is different. It's a different approach. And a lot of the players will report back and say it's full of empathy and understanding and the support and collaboration. And, to have allowed Liverpool to have some sort of finally broken free and being able to become their best, and create, it required a completely different approach. I feel like, Pep at Man City as well are that new generation of leadership. and they're not stuck in command and control, which was those years ago. I think that's the most obvious kind of scenario where, it's really public for us to see.
And I think that, there's a big, in business, there's a massive, there's a huge shift now in terms of businesses taking, their staff's well-being a lot more seriously. So not just some sort of employee assistance program, a portal, and tick a few boxes, but genuinely starting to take it a lot more seriously. So it'll be interesting to see how it all pans out. But I think, from as a business leader, someone's seen you at the top, doing the work on yourself, making sure that you are in the best possible physical and mental place that you can be for yourself and your family, will have a significant impact on business. And as you say, when it comes to leadership, I think charisma goes a long way in leadership, to be honest. You're someone that people want to follow, someone that people feel inspired by. And, and I think those sort of qualities can be really brought out of somebody when, there's a glow about them, there's an aura that surrounds them because they are in a fit state. They're not consumed with alcohol all the time, dragging the knuckles along the floor, moaning, groaning, negative mindset, not forward thinking, no plan, unsure of the values, ratty at home, all the things we started off with the Simon at the start of the session. That person in that state is not going to deliver anywhere near in business and in life as someone that has done the work. Obviously, you've done your own work, Simon, and obviously I do work with people who've done my own work, and I've talked through some of the methodology, the type of things that I like to get into to help people to get to a point that they can perform so much better in life and business. And there's a lot to go at, and everyone's different. Some people, don't drink alcohol. Okay, no problem. What's next? There's always something that we can work on to improve. So yeah, it's very interesting, mate. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it is. It feels like there's only positives, right? There's only positives to coaching. There's only positives to trying to improve, to become your better version of yourself. I'm a huge advocate for it. I wish more people would do it. What do you think if someone was resistant? Actually, no, because we've sort of discussed this, which is if it starts with awareness, and if people haven't reached out, it's because they're not aware yet of maybe the benefits. And ultimately, I'm trying to think out loud now that ultimately the benefits are everything in your life is going to improve, whether it's from business to your home life to making more money. Like all of the things that you want can be achieved often in a better way, where your well-being is actually more intact, your fitness, your health, well-being. It just feels like there's benefits and wins everywhere.
Yeah, there is. So if we think about, let's try and think where are the where's the consequence, where's the negative? Okay, there's probably a couple of things I'll throw in here. Number one, if you're just not aware, you're not aware. So there's a negative because you can't understand, you can't comprehend any benefits if you're just not aware that you may need to change. I think that if you're going to engage in a coaching relationship, you have to commit to change. You have to commit to action. You have to commit to that process. You have to open up. You have to be honest. You have to be vulnerable. You just got to, no stone unturned. If you're unable to do that, that will present a challenge in terms of getting the best results out of a coaching relationship. The third point is working with a coach. What's the word? I don't like intimate, but it's a tight relationship. It's a tight relationship that you create and develop with a coach. So you've got to find the right person, the right chemistry, the right relationship. That's really important. So there'll be people that just would never work with me ever. Just not their sort of bloke. Whereas there's people I've obviously worked with and do work with that think that. So those are the main points. I think if you think about, okay, so we've painted a pretty positive picture around coaching, and I'm an advocate and so are you, so great. But there are potential pitfalls, and that is wrong coach, wrong time, when you're not aware, and you're not in a position where you're genuinely ready to commit to change. But if you can tick those boxes, then yeah, developing a good relationship with a good coach, it's got your interests at heart. My business is called Your Results Coach for a reason. It's nothing to do with, of course I'm involved in my clients' results, but I always say, they're your results. I'm grateful if you say thank you to me. validates me, Simon. I'm gonna back you off the client to get validation from it. But it's just best thing for me is just seeing happier clients performing better, little ripple effect stories like I've mentioned around the wife emailing and another client's mom, just little things like that just bring a massive smile to my face. But it's just about seeing other people get those results. And I think if you can find the right sort of person, the right coach that you align to, and you can see you can sense a connection with, then that's where you can really, really get some fantastic results. And if I talk from personal experience and how I really lean pretty heavily into coach that I use. Unfortunately, sometimes I save up a little bit of my negative energy that I've bottled somewhere out the way and thinking I just need to get this off my chest, and you're the person I'm going to do it with for 5 minutes, and then off we go and start cracking on. But I'm more than happy to share anything and everything, really. If I've got a niggle, if I've got something I've worked on the validation thing, I've worked on it, and I've intentionally taken it to the table to say, I want to work on this, I want to work around this, this is uncomfortable for me, so therefore, if I put it on the table and I work it, I can only benefit from doing that sort of work. I've done a bit of NLP, and what have you to work on it. So yeah, and ultimately, if you sort of summarise, what is coaching? So you're the Simon that started the podcast within in a pickle, as we said. That's if someone's in that sort of place and ready to change that they will get from working in this sort of relationship will be unbelievable, with commitment, of course. But it doesn't, not all my clients come to me in that sort of slightly semi-desperate place, they can be a lot further on in their own self-development than that. But what they are wanting to do is they are striving to be better. They're striving for peak performance, optimal performance, whatever word, high performance, whatever word you're going to use, but they want to be able to improve in all aspects of their life. And the beauty of working with a coach is they've got the mirror they can hold up to you, different angles, push back, apply some perspective, challenge you, get you to think about things not just from your own blinkered view, but from a different way. And that's the process then that starts the flipping light bulbs pinging in your head and starts to get you to think in a different way. And ultimately, and this is important actually, you're going to work with a coach. There's loads of people who call themselves a coach in this world at the moment. If you're going to work with a coach, that coach isn't there to tell you what to do. Coach is there to facilitate the right decision for you, and the right actions for you, and not to just tell you, if you do X, Y, and Z, then you'll get, B, whatever. So I think that's really important. And that comes back to what I'd said is if, a coach, a good, well-trained coach, a good quality coach should be laser focused on your results. That's that they should be a results coach, and those results are your results. And if you find a coach like that, then, and you find there's a connection, then you should expect to see some pretty transformative results.
Love it, Chris. Yeah, I've really enjoyed talking to you today. So thank you so much for your time. If someone wants to get in contact and communicate to you, like where do you hang out? What's the best way of getting in contact?
So LinkedIn's a good place to start because I'm active on there all the time. So it's Chris Howe being HOWE, and it's Your Results Coach. So you'll find me on there. Website, pretty informative, just going to do a bit of tweaking on that, but that's got an option to book a call as well. So if someone wants to fancy a proper conversation, book a call on there. My email address is on there. Ping me an email, that's no problem. And that is www.yourresultscoach.co.uk.
Amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Chris. It's been a great conversation, and I've loved every moment of it.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that. I've enjoyed the chat. Cheers, Simon.